old, and I had a really bad.
Okay, butterflies, we are here once again. Welcome to Butterfly Chats. We are a podcast dedicated to the chronically ill and their caregivers. I am your host, Latoya Clark, and I am here to guide you through your story of pain and triumph with my story of pain and triumph through insights and discussions that will inspire, educate, and empower you and your care team to get through this journey. So, before we get into all the nooks and crannies, I got a little bit of a disclaimer. Please note that I am a pain warrior due to chronic pain due to fibromyalgia. I am not a licensed medical professional, and any information shared on this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered medical advice. I am not advising you to change any current or future treatment plans you may be on, and it is crucial that you consult your own medical team before trying or making any changes to your current or future treatment plans. Yeah. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's get into these topics. Oh my goodness. Today, I I have always been one to believe in divine connections, but if I was not, I would have been. I would be now. Um, I was able to join a podcast summit that I naively thought I'm just gonna go and just, get some good tips and tricks and, bring them back to my podcast and talk to my people. But no, 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 no. I met some of the most amazing female podcasters like I have ever met in my life. One of them is sitting right over there. Well, over there. Or whichever. Whichever way the finger gonna go. Um Rachel, like she is amazing. And during one of the breaks during a little networking, and I was just talking about my podcast, and then I heard this, oh, I have fibromyalgia too. I'm like, wait, who said that? Because it's very rare that you run into someone who also has fibromyalgia. Mostly you get fiber what? Fiber who? So to actually find someone that actually got it, I'm like, oh, we have to do this. This is it. So, Rachel, please introduce yourself to the Butterfly Chats family.
So first of all, I get Rachel all the time, and I
Oh,
think
it
it is
is not Rachel.
because of my wonderful connection with Jennifer Aniston and Rachel from Friends. But my name is Rebecca.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. Don't worry about it. Oh my gosh, like the brain fog. Don't even worry about it. Don't even worry. The fact that it started with the right letter, well done.
Thank you.
So yeah. So my name is Rebecca Nesbit, and I am a life and business coach. I always say I'm a life coach first and a business coach second, because I know that the life stuff is the stuff that gets in the way, whether it is fibromyalgia, whether it is addiction to social media, where it could be social anxiety, it could be overwhelm, it could be burnout. There's always something personal that gets in the way. I do believe that there are no business problems, there are only ever personal ones. So I run a company called Soul Happy Success. I have been in business for just over a year myself. I've been a coach for 9 years in total. So very comfortable in the space and very excited to be here and share not just what I do, but more about my personal journey of fibromyalgia and how I'm able to manage that with all your beautiful butterflies.
I'm so glad that are here as well. It like just the information in your segment was um I mean, it was very helpful. I'm currently working some of that stuff into my processes now. And it was, and it's like, it wasn't even so much the information, it was the delivery. Because I think a lot of times it's always in the delivery. Like, you can tell someone like their feet smell, but if you say it nicely, it can be taken so much better. And it's just like I can just, I mean, I've only met you like what, like once officially, I guess. But it's just like I can tell like we are a people. We are us. You are me. And you
It's a
just seem genuinely
terrible
nice. You
way.
seem genuinely genuine, and I love genuine. Um, and I definitely resonate with that, and I know that my listeners resonate with genuine. Um, can you um, mind sharing it with us just a bit of your diagnosis journey? How did you become associated with the life that we live?
Yeah, absolutely. So it first started, I was 16 years old, and I had a really bad horse riding accident. So I was on a horse, it was galloping, it was my friend's horse, was galloping up a field, and he fell over. So I fell off, and I was very fortunate to not fall underneath him. I fell the other way. So I had this trauma to my spine, and it shifted my hip slightly, and all I can remember about that particular incident was just thinking, oh, I've done something really bad. But being more conscious of the fact that the horse had fallen over. And I was like, oh God, I'm going to have to tell my friend her horse fell over. And then I tried to get up and I couldn't. I'd been winded. So I was like trying and scrambling to get up. And the person that was with me was spotting me, ran over. And I was trying to shout at them to go and get the horse. It's all very dramatic. Like imagine this like terrible accident and his horse galloping away because he galloped back to his stable. So we were fortunate that he was fine. But I got to the bottom of the hill and my mom was there, and she never used to pick me up, but she was picking me up this day. And I had a burst nose, blood was everywhere. It's disgusting. And I didn't have my body protector on. So my mom, being my mom, is like overly worried. If anyone has a mother that worries, then y'all will know. So my mom really worried, but I was so nervous to tell anyone that I'd had this real pain. I was just like, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. And I was really in shock. I was 16 years old. Now that I'm 30, I can look back and be like, oh, she was not fine. But
You were
at the
not
time,
fine.
I was not fine. At the time, I just kept going. And then about 6 months later, I was really, really struggling. I was popping pain medication like you would not believe, but just over the counter stuff. Um, I don't respond well to medication, and that's not to tell anyone not to take their medication. It's just to say I don't respond well to it, and I really struggle. So even taking like your over-the-counter drugs was like too much for my body. But by that point, I've been taking it for so long, I built up an immunity and I was just in so much pain. So eventually I go to the doctor 6 months later to be told that I've had 2 slip discs in my spine and that it was actually really serious. So that started a catalyst of MRIs and going to doctor's visits and them telling me I had XYZ. And essentially, after that had all calmed down and my body was back to normal, then I was still having this pain and I couldn't understand it. And they were saying it could be phantom pain. And I was like, I don't know. And then it transitioned into a diagnosis of fibromyalgia. And at that point, I was in the UK, and this is nothing against UK doctors, but personally, my journey at the time was in the UK. And I was pretty much told, you have this, there's no cure for it. So you'll just have to take this medication when it's bad and just deal with it. And I was like, oh, I don't know about that, because all the medications had me on, because at one point I developed sciatica and it was so bad. Like, have you ever had sciatica, Latoya?
Yes, I do. I have it.
Isn't it the worst?
Horrible.
Oh,
Horrible.
I feel
Just
very fortunate. I've only had it twice, but like I developed that and it was just so much pain. I could not even cope. And all of the medications they had me on, the amitriptyline, all the things, and I was really struggling. My body was really, really struggling. It was under the pressure of the pain, under the pressure of the medications. And I know that anyone that's listening to this can probably relate to that point. So that was really my journey up to diagnosis. And then after that, I just kind of got left to deal with it on my own. So I don't know if anyone else is in that boat, but I was just kind of left to do it on my own.
yeah.
And I took a super holistic approach, and that's not accurate for everyone. That's not right for everyone. But essentially, that was my transition afterwards, and that's how I've been able to alleviate enough of the symptoms to be able to have a really fulfilled life.
Okay. So I definitely want to get into your holistic approach. So I'm gonna hold that question a little bit later. So during that time where you were trying to figure it out, and it must be well, I guess it has to be a universal thing, because pretty much what you were told is what I was told here in the States. Um, you have
Mm-hmm.
fibromyalgia, you're not gonna die from it. Here's a prescription. See you in 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And he left me in the room.
I
The
mean,
doctor
you
left.
got a little
He's
bit
gone.
more. Yeah, you got a little bit more than I did because it wasn't come see in 3 months. It was literally this. These are the drugs that you'll be
Bye,
on.
you're gone.
And
Don't come back. Yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
it's like, what? I'm like, sir, I'm a professional pastry chef. I can't be in constant pain, sir. Sir, hello, sir. I paid a copay for this, you know. So it's like, and yeah, the whole figuring it out. Yeah, I came home directly and got on the internet, like fibro what, like have fibro, fibro my phone fibro my. How do you spell it? You know, it's like, what is this mysterious thing that they don't seem to care about? Because I don't understand. So during your time of figuring it out, how how is your mental state? Like, how did you? We understand your physical body was not going well because you're trying to take medications, which really don't, which your body was already telling you stop, but yet you were in
Mm-hmm.
pain, so you kind of had to. So you were dealing with that, but mentally, how were you functioning daily?
Yeah. I mean, I was so young at the same time. I was so young because I mean, I got that information. I was 16 when I had the accident, so it must have been 17 years old where they started to do all of these tests, and it was around 18 years old that they were like, this is what it is. So I was so young. That was really challenging because I mean, I first hormones.
Yeah,
So they
that's
were
what I'm
a mess
thinking.
anyway. So mentally,
You're still getting,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, you're still trying to like figure out how to just be a human. So adding something else on is a lot. But my mental state, it wasn't good. But at the same time, I was still very much involved in the horse riding world. So I was very physically active. And I also came from, my dad is from a military background. My dad was a Royal Marine. So I had that kind of at home, just keep going. Your body can withstand anything. It doesn't matter mentality, which
Mm-hmm.
is a double edged sword because it absolutely helped in some ways and it was
Mm-hmm.
truly detrimental in others.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I took it. So I don't place blame. Like I'm not a blame game kind of gal. So I don't
Yeah.
place blame on my father for instilling those values because I wouldn't be who I was without them. But
Mm-hmm.
there were times that I just pushed it way too far. I have no idea how I made it through my school exams. No idea. Like very just fortunate to have made it through because the amount of medication was ridiculous. There were days where I was just like my parents would call me a space cadet. Like I just like wasn't there. And yeah, that was really challenging. So before I decided to start making any changes and stop taking medication, which was a personal choice, and again, we're not saying for other people to come off medication, but I had to make that personal
Mm-hmm.
choice when I was about 19, like going on 19. I made the personal choice to come off medication because I just couldn't cope anymore with it, because the side effects were so bad. The nausea, I got a lot of nausea. And that's still something that I take papaya enzyme as a supplement. Not to say everyone should. I now have a great doctor. I think that really helps. She's literally from the Amazon rainforest. She's my Amazon warrior doctor, and I think she's wonderful. But
Nice.
I take that every day because it helps with the nausea that I still have because it's caused by pain. So it's so interesting how it manifests for different people as well. But with a lot of medication came a lot of nausea. So I really had to overcome that. And I overcame that a different way. So I highlight the supplement. But there are just little things that you learn along the way, right? That you pick up and you integrate and that work for you. And a lot of it is trial and error. Personally, I would just rather trial and error things that could help and have long-term benefits than could help in the short term, but maybe don't have those long-term benefits. So I look at it as, if this is going to be my whole life, it's going to be a life's work, and I'm committed to that. So I think that that was a mindset shift that really helped me out. But in the beginning, oh my gosh, my mental state was just a mess, and there's no support for that.
Wow. I mean, so at 19 years old, and you, I mean, you had to have already been a really strong person instinctively to deal with that. And then on top of that, you made the decision to come off of pharmaceuticals and find a healthier or a non-pharmaceutical way to treat your pain, to help your body. You acknowledged the fact, and you were self-aware enough to know that the things that you were taking was just not, that was not. So how did you come to that realization? And then how did you find those treatments, and where did you start looking?
Yeah. Well, I think what's important to credit is, first of all, passion. So I had such passion for what I was doing, which at the time was horse riding, and then I went into harness racing as a groom for a while. So I was very invested in something that was physical, that involved me using my body a lot. So I really credit the passion I had in helping me overcome it. I credit my parents massively for their, not even so much their guidance, but the things that they instilled in me. Like I was saying, like my parents truly do believe that I can do anything. So I'm very fortunate. And I equally credit privilege. And I'm just going to come right out and say it, because not everyone is in such a privileged position to say, I am going to, because of the belief systems that I have a certain amount of privilege that allows me to take that next step. And that comes from many, many things. So I'm very aware of the privilege I have, but I think that that allowed me to take a step back to have that awareness. And I mean, the rest of the journey is 10 years of trial and error and figuring things out. Like, it is constant. It's still going on. I'm 30 now. I just turned 30 this year. So, that's been
Fabulous.
11 years. Oh my gosh, 30, flirty, and thriving. But,
Yes.
it it's been 11 years, and now I have a handle on it, but there are still days where I'm like, well, I don't have a handle on this. I'm gonna have to figure this out. There's definitely something else there's definitely something else I need to add to the tool bag. So I think that what comes after is so many different things, of trying lots of different holistic practices to find what actually really worked for me, to find supplements that really worked for me. It takes time. And I think that's not common for us to think, hey, I'm going to approach this as if it is a life's work, because it's pain. When we're pushed by pain, we really want to get rid of it as quickly as possible. Very rarely are we pulled. Yeah, very rarely are we pulled by a vision. And I mean, this is the majority of my coaching. Everything centers around this, whether it is physical pain, whether it is emotional pain, whether it is whatever kind of pain. Typically, we're so driven to get out of pain. That's where the motivation is. And that's why we want something that's a quick fix. But this thing doesn't have a quick fix. So we have to be pulled by a vision of, what could my life look like? How could I alleviate some of the pain, some of the symptoms? And you just take it one step at a time.
Wow. That's good. That's really good. Um and I think a lot of my listeners definitely couldn't appreciate you acknowledging your privilege. Because I mean, I think a lot of us have a certain amount of privilege in different areas,
Mhm.
depending on where we are in the country, in financially. We all have different types of privilege, because we're not all in the same state of anything. Um, and because are you in Canada? Where are you are now? UK, or because you're not in the States now, are you?
So I am, yeah. So I actually
Oh, okay.
immigrated to Texas. So I'm
Oh,
originally
okay.
from Scotland, and I just
Okay.
got my green card. So
Look
I'm
at
very excited to be
you,
here.
official
Yeah.
sister. Okay,
Mhm.
my American sister. All
And we're so
right.
close. We're in the south. We're close.
Yes, we are. It's time to have a barbecue. Come to
Mhm.
the cookout.
Let's do it. Do it.
So yeah, so now, um, do you mind sharing some of those supplements and some of those things for those that I know I have several listeners and people that are in our support group that and shoot, even myself. I mean, I have a I have a dream of being holistic at some point. I've thankfully been able to transition to a different medical team that is willing to do that for me. My old one was just not. But I had a whole bunch of older white guys. They were like, "Medicine works. Take the medicine. Take more pills." you know. And so I finally found, women of color, younger women who've just gotten out of school, have more of the upper, newer knowledge, and they're like, girl, come on. So I'm very, very, very happy now, which is not often you say that you're happy with your medical team. You can't, not many people can say that. And there's like, I've been highly over medicated for way too long. So I'm in that process of slowly coming off of things that you don't come off of very easily. So it
Yeah.
may take me a while to get holistic, but I am very determined. But for those that are in a more easier place to become holistic, did you mind sharing some of the things that you found that helped with maybe body aches or what have you?
Mhm. So one of the main ones, and I know this is controversial, and I'm not here to be an activist, just
Of course.
FYI. But the first thing that made the biggest difference to me was changing my diet. That
Hmm.
really helped. Now, I used to love me a glass of milk and a hunk of cheese and a blue steak, but I read, and this is where we start to piece things together. I
Hmm.
literally, and I believe like you do, in divine timing. And
Hmm.
I was in the grocery store one day and I walked past the magazine section and they had this plant-based magazine. And this plant-based magazine said the word fibromyalgia on it. And I thought, well, that's interesting.
Like,
So it just caught my eye. And then I looked at it. I read the article in the store because I wasn't paying $5 to like buy the magazine.
oh,
It was
why? I
five
mean, why would
pounds
we?
in the UK. But magazine prices are insane. Insane. Oh.
Insane.
So
No.
it was like £5, which probably would be the equivalent to like $7. So anyway, I read this study and I was like, okay, well, that's interesting. And I had just very recently come to personal development and had committed myself to watching documentaries over TV series. So then I just started to look at documentaries about food. And then I kept seeing this come up as a theme about inflammation in the body.
Hmm.
And I decided overnight, I watched, I think it was Forks Over Knives or Cowspiracy or something with a very dramatic name. And I thought, I'm just going to try it. I'm just going to try it. And that was 7, maybe 8 years ago now. And I've never looked back. So it's not to say that everyone has to take everything out their diet and go plant-based and, only eat vegetables. It's just to say that that really helped me. It didn't help in terms of every single vegetable is good for you and every single meat product is bad for you. I don't believe that.
Hmm.
I personally found this a simple diet to follow. and that felt good for me. But I typically follow plant-based, and I don't tend to eat a lot of bread. And it's just through feeling and understanding. I also don't eat that much sugar. Like, I love me some
Mhm.
chocolate. Oh my gosh, like, chocolate fiend over here. But I tend to just ignore things or choose differently when it's things that have lots of sugar, things that cause inflammation like gluten, or it's, your dairy products, which can really cause a
Yeah.
lot of inflammation in the body.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I took those out, and that helped me. I would say to anyone that's interested, try one of them and see if taking it out works for you. Because, like I said, if this is a life's work, then it's looking at what are the things that I'm doing every single day that attribute to how I feel. Now, I'm not saying that we all have fibromyalgia because we eat cheese
Of
and
course.
dairy,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Of course
But
not. Yeah.
what I am saying is that there are things that will inflame your body more than others, and maybe
Mhm.
just noting those down. And I know that food diary is something that some medical
Mhm.
practitioners have suggested to me in the
Very
past.
helpful.
Yeah. So I would definitely, like, if there's anything that can alleviate the pain in the body for me, it's taking out inflammation. So I know, for example, we were traveling for 2 weeks. We were everywhere. We were Pennsylvania, Washington, Colorado. We finally just got home, and traveling so much and having so many meals that were out with our typical meals was really challenging on my body. There was a lot
Mhm.
more inflammation that would come up, and the inflammation creates a lot of pain for me. It's almost like
Mhm.
I only have so much space, you know? So I like to keep that inflammation as low as possible.
Yeah.
So because of that, the reason that I say that is because if we're asking about supplements, a lot of the supplements that I take are because it also is something that's not typically found in a vegan diet. So
Mhm.
I take B12 for
Okay.
energy, and because it's not injected into food, so I can't get that really anywhere else.
Mhm.
And I also take magnesium. So magnesium was a recent addition and has been really, really helpful. So that's more for bone health, because
Mhm.
there can be not bone breakdown, but essentially I eat a lot of oranges because calcium is like obviously on point, but magnesium is just more challenging to get through food. I take papaya enzyme, like I said, because of nausea. So that really supports me. And I also take a vegan omega 3 because trying to get omega 3 on a plant-based diet is just an absolute nightmare. So like eat your fish and you'll be fine. But I have to take that as a supplement because I don't get it anywhere else. And the only other thing I take is I take antihistamines because I blow up like a balloon when a mosquito bites me. And that
Mm.
happens a lot in Texas. And that's just like an extra little aggravation that you don't need when your life is like chronic pain. You just like don't.
Exactly. Please don't. Please don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, and I mean, definitely like, and I think when you're thinking of where to start when it comes to holistic health and trying to control your inflammation, your pain levels, um, food is the best, the first place, because it's the first and most the actually the most convenient place to start. um, it's easier to change what you buy at the grocery store than it is to buy a prescription or any of these supplements off the counter. I know I definitely noticed a difference when I took out processed foods. I started
Mm,
cooking all of my meals. I mean, of course, being a chef, I do a lot of cooking anyway. Um, and I
mhm,
know I was, during the high pain times, I would have things that I would buy just to kind of help me with my time. But then I started doing like, like meal preps on the weekends. I would try to,
mhm,
store up my energy and on the weekends, do meal preps so that I wouldn't have to do the extra buying. And that did help, the fact of me cooking at home, and not having to eat the processed foods, the processed meats. that did help. Now, and I was working with actually a nutritionalist who also had fibromyalgia. And
Oh,
she was very big in uh I forgot what she called it, but basically it's just being kind to yourself, giving yourself grace. That sometimes you can't be perfect all the time. And if you can't get it done, you can't get it done. So, and I'm not very good with being graceful to myself. I'm working at it. I'm getting better at it. Um, but just know that, just know, guys, that if you're listening to us now and you're like, those are big steps, like they did big things. It's really not. I mean, it may be big steps, but we didn't do them all at once. It was baby things, one thing at a time. So don't think that, like, we're talking brain surgery up here. Okay, I don't want you to become intimidated and thinking that it's not something you cannot do. Um, it is possible. Um, so when you when you started to do, like, you found your diet that worked, and like whenever you find that thing that works, it's like, it's like, thank you, Jesus. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so where did you go next? Like, once you found that one thing, what was your next step to try and get your pain under control, and then your life under control?
yeah. So my changing my diet was probably the thing that got my pain most under control. And then you're dealing with like the other host of symptoms, right? Because by that point, then you're like, okay, well, for me, it was I've removed a lot of inflammation from the body. And then I thought, well, now I have to somehow move my body. So essentially, my mom, love my mom, love moms.
Moms,
Shout out to all the moms. But
right?
my mom, because I was almost like, they saw this as being super hippie. Because I mean, 8 years ago, being plant based was just like not the cool thing. Like now there's like the veganuary, and some people kind of think it's a trend, but it wasn't cool back then when you could get like nothing in the grocery store. There were just not as many people online that were doing it. So you couldn't really get that many recipes. There was rarely, a vegan cookbook out there. And it was really challenging at the beginning, like really, really challenging to try and make sure that I was getting everything that I needed, and I didn't have the adequate support team. So it was a challenge. So that was definitely a journey. And I think that, to your point, this was a journey of, it's been 11 years now. So these big steps this was like one step a day for 11 years. You're going to have a big step after then, So, after I had got the pain under control and I was trying to figure out, what can I eat, what can't I eat in that time, then I know that we've spoken so much, Latoya, about brain fog, because it clearly still happens. But that was kind of my next thing to conquer. Yeah, that was my next thing to conquer, because I was going to university at the time. So I decided, after a few years after school, I had joined a company. They gave us the opportunity to go to university, and they would pay for us to go to university and pay for us to do a postgraduate diploma. So that's what started my coaching career as well. So because they were going to do that, then I was like, I really have to get this brain fog under control. And I had to get my body in control to do that. So my mom, in her infinite wisdom, because I was a newfound hippie, decided that it would be a good idea for me to go to a core strengthening class that wasn't quite yoga, but it was core strengthening. So it was like, it was hippie enough for me, not too hippie for her. So we went to the core strengthening class, and we went a few times, and she was like, it's going to be so good for your mindset. So that's where the kind of brain fog part came in. And then obviously my body was like cramping a lot, and I just didn't have space in my body. So I wanted to create that. So it was, it was doing two things at the one time.
Yeah.
So we went to core strengthening class. They had 2 classes. So we went for 2 weeks, and then the instructor left. So then they said, try yoga. It's the closest thing we've got. Because at the time, I lived on an island called Shetland, 22,000 people in the middle of the North Sea, very cold, very different to life in South of America, or South of Northern America. And we went to this class. We then went to yoga. My mom didn't love the yoga, but by that time, my body was feeling a little bit more open. I felt like I was doing something good for me. I felt like I was starting to quiet that mind chatter. So I had a little bit of space to deal with the brain fog then. So the meditative purpose of yoga, because yoga is just a moving meditation, but being able to move at the same time really helped me to open up to the next level of spirituality, which was a really big part of my process because it allowed me to go and try other things that were in that realm. So after I took on yoga, I loved yoga so much, I became a yoga practitioner. So I can actually teach yoga. I tend not to. I sometimes do it for fun at like in-person events. I have one in Houston in August that we're doing that for, and that'll be cool to kind of get back to my yoga roots. But I just do it for fun now. I don't do it so much as a practice for other people because it was never meant to be that. It was always meant to be a practice for me. So I wanted to learn how could I modify particular postures for my body? Like, what do I do when my back hurts so much I want to cry? Oh, I can do this, this, and this posture, and that will help. Great. So I really went on a learning journey with yoga and then equally went on a meditation journey. So I did a lot of, there's one that I like, and this is not an ad, but there is it's called the Cleansing Pool. It's by the Honest Guys and it's on YouTube. It's 30 minutes and it's like a pain relief meditation. And I can't even tell you how many times that has just like saved my sanity. Like it's so beautiful to go on this little guide, 30 minutes. It's really beautiful. So that really helped. So then that was kind of the next step in the journey of becoming a little bit more holistic. It got a little bit more spiritual. It became, what about breath work? And breath work is something that I just like live and die by. I think it's amazing. And then it was like, how do you feel about sound bowls? And then I was like, I kind of like them, but it's like not my modality. Like it's not something I need to like dive into. So I just started trying a bunch of things and finding out what worked for me. And the main things that work for me are the change in my diet, are moving my body, and definitely meditative practices, whether that is journaling, whether it is actually sitting and meditating, whether it's going on a walk in nature and just like being there and being present, because those things gave my mind the space for those little nuggets to come in. So even on this call, I have a little pad of paper in front of me and it just has a few notes of things that have come up through what we're talking about. And I'm like, well, I must tell Latoya about this particular thing. So it just gives me
got the same thing. I got the same thing.
Oh my God, amazing.
I know, like you say, like little notes, like when we were talking about support. Like, oh yeah, that's right. That's a good segue. I'm like, okay, so it's just like, tell you guys, it's a life. It's a life.
We need to create like Fibromyalgia Ninja Journal or something really cool
Right?
for like.
No, it's crap. I'm like, no, she doesn't have a little notepad. Cause I'm like, maybe she can't see it. I'm like,
Yeah,
but yeah,
like,
I mean,
I'm trying to like keep my pen below the screen so you can't see I'm writing. But
me too.
it's so helpful. So it gave me the space to integrate those other things. So that was really the next step in my journey, was to take control back of my body, because my body had to re-become a safe place for me.
Yeah,
I had to
because
learn
I love the part about taking it back, because I definitely fibromyalgia stole so much and didn't even ask. That's the part. I mean, didn't even ask. Like, I woke up one morning and bam, can't do nothing. Nothing. Just like, hello, rude. you know, so we got like another couple of minutes, 20, not 20 minutes, but another few minutes. I really want to get into the taking it back part. That's the part
Mm-hmm.
I want people to know about. But I also want the people can't talk right now. I want to, you mentioned support, about a point where you didn't have support. So,
Mm-hmm.
could you can you tell us about that time in your life where you did not have the support that you needed? Um, they and I don't want to speak for you and tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure your friends and family probably felt they were supporting you in their way, but it wasn't the
Mm-hmm.
support that you needed for what you were going through. So tell us about that time in your life, and then tell us how you found, created, or got the support you needed to who we're become the wonderful woman running a business, taking on the world, kicking ass that we see today. I mean, take us through that wormhole, that
Yeah.
transformation to today.
Yeah. I feel like I'm just doing my best now, but I love the way
And
you
that's all we can.
explained
I think
it.
we all are, but and that's really all we can do.
Mhm.
But I think for us painies, spoonies, it's a little more than that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell us.
Yeah. So essentially, when I first started out on this journey with fibromyalgia, I mean, no one knew what it was. This was 8 years ago. There's been a lot more research, but not much. And it was very confusing for people. I actually had my grandmother was diagnosed with fibromyalgia 2 years ago, and she called me and she said she was like, I really did not realize what you had. I did not realize it was like this. And I was like, yep. And by that point, my grandmother
Yep.
had a stent in her heart, had a heart attack. She's gone on to have a stroke, and she's still like kicking it, fighting fit. But I remember her calling and being like, I really didn't realize what this was. Like, that's how, I mean, she's experienced some of like what I would imagine would be the worst pains, apart from labor. I can imagine that's really hard. But like some of
Yeah.
the worst pains that a person can go through, and it's saying that this is traumatic because this is
Word.
every day. This is not something that you get a vacation from. This is every day. Like, I have to monitor my food every day. I have to take my supplements every day. I have to drink my water every day. I have to move my body every day. I have to do something for my mind every day. So it's so interesting because at the very beginning, no one really knew what it was. My parents thought I was crazy for going on this like plant-based diet. They thought I was becoming a hippie. I was going to be an activist and start like throwing paint on, celebrities or something. And that wasn't the case, but that was where their mind went because they didn't have an understanding of what that lifestyle choice meant for me. So in the beginning, they would buy me a lot of, or as many as they could, processed vegan foods. And they didn't help because, to your point, it was still processed. So I really had to find a way of, I literally just like went down to the bare bones of vegetables and all I ate was
Yeah.
vegetables. So they would make like this big roast dinner and then it would just be, you can have the vegetables and the potatoes, you can not have the main thing. So I
Hmm.
would just load up on vegetables and I had to figure that out myself along the way. So that came with a lot of reading and work that I would do behind the scenes. But my parents didn't really get it. They kind of a lot of the time thought she's just going to grow out of this. Like, it's something that she's just
Hmm.
get over. But I think because they had seen so much of the pain, there had been one day I can remember, and my partner at the time had to pick me up from work, and we lived about 30 minutes away and my parents lived about 5 minutes away. And I said to him, you have to take me to my parents' house. I can't make it home. Like, I can't sit in this car. And I went to my parents' house and I was lying down on their bed because my parents have like one of those beds that's like one side is firm and one side is soft. And I was lying on my dad's like firm side of the bed. And I was like, I just can't move. I was like, I can't do anything. And I think because they saw like so much pain, all they knew how to do to help was, how can we cook food for you? How can we commiserate with you? How can we, get you back to what you were like yesterday? Do you just need some sleep? They were very helpful, but they didn't know what they were helping. They were just doing what they could. And I think we all were at that time, because I didn't help myself. So I think quite a lot of the time we don't get the support because we don't even know. Whereas now I'm like very clear on what the support is that I need. And my husband is the most wonderful man in the world. I am infinitely blessed by just his presence in my life. But if I'm having a day where I feel like I've got a lot of pain, the first thing he says is, "Do you want that heat pad? Do you want that heat pad?" That's the first thing. And I'm like, "Yes, honey, that's a great idea. Yes, I do want that." So, you start to learn what's right for you. And when you start doing it, other people can help you. But at the beginning, there was really no understanding. And then if you look into the medical field, I was on an island with 22,000 people. The doctors were all old school doctors, and it was really challenging. I mean, they're general practitioners. They have to cover everything. So this is just such a niche, specialized area that there was no support team. So I was just really fortunate. Like I said, I came from a place of, my parents just said that I could do anything. So I just believed it for long enough that I started to tell myself that. And I started to tell myself I was fine and that I could do it, and that today was going to be harder, but I was going to be stronger. And it wasn't always perfect, but it started me off on this catalyst of starting to figure out what worked. And now I have a very different approach. So the transition from then to now is, now I'm, to your point, I'm so much kinder with myself and my body. So much kinder. So I worked out today, and my workout was 16 minutes on the elliptical. I'm going to call it a win. I'm like, that's enough. I am going to lie down after. We're both going to put our PJs on after this, Latoya. Let's not fool the people. We're going to put our PJs on. We're going to take our, you're going to take your makeup off, take my eyebrows off, and we're just going to, I'm just going to relax.
That's it.
And yeah, that's what I need for my body right now. And there are other days where I can go for miles. I can go for days. I could just keep going, and I feel good. And then there's a day where I don't. And instead of ignoring that day where I don't, I think, okay, what's changed? Has my diet changed? Has something changed in my general vicinity? Am I more stressed? Because with more stress, my fibromyalgia gets worse. So I'm always asking myself, why has that flared up now? And sometimes it's for no reason. And I'm like, okay, well, I just get to take care of myself today.
Exactly.
So,
and that's the most, I think that's one of the most frustrating parts, because sometimes it is just because it's fibro, just because it decides it wants to have the attention. It's the main character today. And you have to be okay with that. I mean, you can get upset about it. You can try and fight it, but it's just gonna make it worse. Just let it, just give into it. And it's not even really giving into it. It's just giving your body what it needs in that moment, letting the moment pass, and getting on with your life.
Yeah. And I think one of my main mindsets is, because I like to be a little bit sassy. I don't know about you, but I'm like, what's the alternative? What's the alternative for me? And quite often I'll ask myself, and this is something that I learned in coaching, and I did a lot of coaching with women who had chronic pain at the very beginning of my coaching journey when I went freelance after leaving my job. And quite often I would ask, what am I getting out of this today? What am I getting out of it? Because quite often the two things that I would find that not only myself would get out of it, that the women I was coaching would get out of it, was, one, I would get attention. And I love me some attention. I'm just gonna be honest. Love me some attention. I knew that would make people around me care a little bit more for me. So I'm just like you said at the beginning, I'm just genuine and I'm just honest, and that absolutely was accurate for me. And the second thing, and this is the one that you find more often than not, is you've never given your body a rest, so your body's now telling you need to rest. So you're getting out of this flare up, you're getting the rest that you need. So I do believe that there's a mind-body connection. I don't believe that it's everything, but I do believe that it's powerful and that it's strong, and that there are ways to question it and poke it and prod it and help yourself move through it, as opposed to, like the feeling of just like let it go. Like you can't let it go. Your body's in complete pain. Like we would all love to just like let it go. Like
Right?
Elsa Frozen, like 3 minutes later, one song and you're done. But
Exactly.
the question is always for me, I'm like, what's the alternative? Like if I don't get up, what's the alternative? If I don't try today, what's the alternative? And the alternative is that I'm just going to be in as much pain and I'm just going to be really sad about it and negative, and that's going to contribute negatively to how I feel. So I think there's such weight in that, and I suppose that's really the why, that's the why of
Exactly.
going.
I mean, 100%, because when once you get that diagnosis, and like I was saying earlier, fibromyalgia takes so much from you. It takes it, and it takes it quickly. I mean, and it was really right before I was officially diagnosed. My doctor told me I would never work in the kitchen again. I was like, whatever, you know. And I know for a month I kept trying to go back to work. I will go back to my job without the release from the doctor. Like, come on, she doesn't have to know. And my boss is like, you are not gonna get me sued. No, ma'am. you know, no, ma'am. Because I already passed out once on him the first time. That's how I left the first time. So he was like, no, ma'am. Uh, you need to go get that release from the doctor, and then we'll talk. You know, um, and she's like, no, like you don't understand how sick you are. I mean, because not only did I have fibromyalgia, I also had tumors that had to get dealt with. And I'm like, I don't want to hear none of that you're talking about. None of that. I want to go cook, lady. you know. So, but yeah, like sometimes your body is like, I am tired, and we, including you, are gonna rest now. So, you know, but after you do that and you've taken care of the things you need to take care of, and you're left with like what my doctor said, the collateral damage. Once you're left with what you're left with, what are you gonna do? Like, are you just gonna stay there in the muck, just rolling around in it, or are you gonna try to turn that muck into a nice little castle for yourself? And try and get back out there. You might not get back in the kitchen. You might not get back in the office. You may not get back to where you thought you should be, but you might end up somewhere pretty cool. But in order to do that, you got to get up. And I'm far too stubborn to not keep trying again. You know, so I mean, I don't know about you, but I to I have to try. You know.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think that there are days where you really don't want to try. And I totally get that. And I think that we've probably both had multiples of those days. But I always say this is something that I instill in my clients, is when something really just terrible happens, like something really crummy happens, like something really rubbish, and you don't want to have to deal with it, but you have to, then the question really is, how quickly are you going to get back up? How quickly are you going to get back up? Because you're going to get back up. And I think that it's having that solid belief that it doesn't matter what, you're going to get back up, because life is still going to go on. And there's going to be a day where you're going to feel that little smidge better, that like half a percentage point better. And you're going to choose to get up that day. And it's going to feel a little bit better. And it's constantly, like it's saying, it is a life's work. You're constantly striving for what is next for me. And instead of being, and this is where this like push and pull that I was speaking about at the beginning, and this is such a pillar of what I do and always will be for this reason, instead of being pushed by all of this pain, physical pain, emotional pain, Sometimes it can be spiritual pain because you're like, why, Lord, did you like, why, Lord, Yoda, universe, whomever, everyone goes in my house.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you do this to me?
Yeah.
Because you're right, it can happen so fast and it can take so much. And you're like, why? Instead of sitting in this place of pain and being almost like aggressive towards it, like you
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't have it, this shouldn't be the way, why has this happened to you? The more that you ask those questions, the more the pain's just going to push you, and pain pushes
Mm-hmm.
you in any direction and you'll end up anywhere. Whereas if you start
Yeah.
to be led by a vision that says, you know what, there are people that are out there that are doing great things and they have this. I mean, Lady Gaga has fibromyalgia.
Yeah.
There are people out here in the world doing great things and they have the same situation as you. And it's absolutely possible that tomorrow is better than today. It's absolutely possible that you can start to heal. It may take a really long time, but starting that process is going
Mm-hmm.
to always be much more desirable than the pain that you're living in.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of being pushed by pain, I hope that, if anyone could take anything from me, it's instead of being pushed by pain, be pulled by a vision that something greater is waiting for you. And it doesn't feel like that in the moment, but just think about the possibilities, think about the potential, because you're right. Like, maybe you're not going to be back in a kitchen anytime soon, but would this podcast have even existed? Would you be helping so many people if that was your journey? No.
Yeah. Exactly. Because I've always seen myself as a back of the house kind of chick, but since fibromyalgia, I've been definitely very much front of the house, and
Mhm.
I'm like, what's going on here? So my last question for this podcast, I kind of feel like I'm gonna have you back. I don't know. I'm gonna have to figure that out. So since your diagnosis and all the things you figured out, what would you say, or what would you describe as your possible superpower since you've been diagnosed with fibromyalgia?
I'm going to answer this as an overall because I literally just journaled about this. And I think that, it's almost like a broken record because I've already said it, but I think that my superpower is resiliency. I
Mm-hmm.
think it is in that power to get back up and to
Mm-hmm.
continue to strive to get back up faster next time. And
Mm-hmm.
by get back up, I don't mean, oh, I'm in so much pain, I'm going to get up and push myself. I mean, oh, I'm in so much pain, I'm going to honor that, but I'm still going to progress towards the goals that I want to achieve in my life. I'm
Yep.
still going to, even if we take this on a very basic example of imagine I didn't have a business, I'm going to get back up. I'm not going to let the pain affect me when I'm communicating with my husband, for example, because
Mm-hmm.
pain does such crazy things to us that we lash out at the people that we love most sometimes. So the
Yes.
next time I'm going to get up a little bit faster. I'm not going to snap ever. We don't do raised voices in our house. It's something that we've worked really hard on. And, it's very little things, but I'm not going to hold on to any anger or aggression just because I'm sore. And when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
business, I'm not going to say no to that opportunity because maybe in a week's time, I'm going to feel, in pain or I'm going to have the brain fog. I'm going to set up systems in place to support me to
Mm-hmm.
remember the things that I know I would forget. This is not an ad.
Mm-hmm.
I do everything on the Todoist app. I literally put in
Mm-hmm.
things like my clients have important dates and I put them in their birthdays and a week before to remind me to, send them a gift and a present and like a card. And I do all these things because one, I love my clients, but also I would forget otherwise. And I know that I have
Yeah.
more of a disposition to forget those things than other people. So
Exactly.
learning to work with yourself. So I think that mentality, that superpower is the resiliency of getting back up and trying to do better next time. That would be my joint superpower. But my first one will always be that I'm just willing always to go again and try something
Mm-hmm.
new, try a new supplement, try taking food out of my diet, try adding food into my diet, try a new workout class, try
Yep.
doing the things they tell you to do and meditate and walk and journal and all those things. I'm willing to try all those things. And if they work, then I just keep doing them.
Mm-hmm. And if they don't, then you try the next thing,
Yeah.
because there's going to be a next thing, because we're determined
Yeah.
to live a life, a worthy life.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I have enjoyed myself. I hate that this has to end, but it has to end because, like you said, we have to rest. So please, tell everybody where they can find you if they want you to book you for a coaching. And of course, I will have all of this in my descriptions. But tell them where they can find you. Give them in if you have any upcoming events or specials that you want to promote. Please tell us now. The floor is yours.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. So you can find me across all platforms. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. I have a Twitter account, but I totally don't use it. So I also have a TikTok, totally don't use that. So you'll find me there, but I never answer messages, FYI. But you'll find me most often on Instagram. So Facebook, Instagram, podcast, and YouTube at Soul Happy Success. So that's where you'll find me. And please drop into my DMs. I still monitor. I'm a solopreneur, so I still monitor all my direct messages and things that I've got coming up. So I actually host a monthly event for female entrepreneurs. So if you are a female entrepreneur in the space and you want to come along and share what it is that you do, and also to get support from other female entrepreneurs, please come along to the CEO crowd. They book out super far in advance. So we're booked out for July and we're half booked out for August, but you're so more than welcome to book for August. And that is an hour where you're just connecting with other female entrepreneurs. What I've got going on in terms of coaching is my next program launches on the 16th of July. It's called the Coaching Catalyst. And that is a 8-week experience of group coaching to help women that are feeling like they're held back by something, whether it is imposter syndrome, whether it's chronic pain, whether it is I don't think I can do this for any reason, and you want to become a coach and you want to find who are you as a coach and have a way more holistic approach to what it means for you to be a coach, then that starts on the 16th of July. You are so welcome to come along, check out the masterclass. And as I said, if you've got any questions, please DM me. Would love to hear from anyone with reflections on what we've spoken about, or for any further advice, I'm there.
Absolutely. Well, that sounds amazing, and you can also get all that information in from the descriptions. I'll add that as a question on Spotify, and you can also find this on my website, butterflychats.com. So that is it for today, guys, and until next time, just remember, you got this.